Awesome. All right. Thanks, Michelle. So yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you again for being here. I do know it can be quite hectic even in the middle of the month, but the intent of today is to show you how to simplify the in-between. So when we're starting off a new month, how do we effectively close as as well as when we're heading into the final days of the month, how do we get preliminaries out? How do we make sure that the information is accurate, that we're going to be, maybe forwarding to an executive team or to the banks or whatever it may be. That's really the intent of today. And I know the team at Optimus, we've had quite a number of you either already have made an investment into Jet or are considering it. But yeah, there's been a lot of folks taking advantage of what we do. And so we're proud to be partners with Optimus, and thank you for, again, having us here today to present to your clients. So without further ado, today our presentation is going to consist of kind of two different pieces. And so in its entirety, we should be done about 10 minutes or so before the hour, maybe a little bit more. There should be a Q&A panel or a place to ask questions as we go through this presentation. So feel free to type in those boxes, or as we get towards the end, I'm going to obviously save some time for questions. But yeah, that's really why I'm here, is to make sure that as I go through this, that everything's clear and it makes sense. So for those of you not familiar with who Jet is, this is one of the slides our marketing team has come up with. I do want to emphasize we are a trusted and vetted solution by Microsoft themselves. We've been in the business of making reporting and analytics easy since 2002, and we've amassed over 14,000 different companies all over the world. 94 different countries actually make up the Jet global ecosystem. And the reason that's important for anyone on this call today is you've made an investment into the Microsoft ERP. And I just want you to know our integrations, our roadmap, all of our plans for the future align strategically with your ERP. So as you build reports, as you take advantage of what it is that we do best, you're never going to be waiting for us to catch up with technology. We're ready for the cloud. We're ready for all of the features and enhancements that will be coming to your ERP, or if you do decide to move from on-premise to the cloud, you won't be stuck rebuilding your reports. The question I get from time to time is, what industry does Jet specialize in? I mean, the good news for you, we work with every size company. We work with very small operations as well as very large multinational corporations. So our products are built to scale. Wherever you're at today, whatever your plans are for the future, we have a solution for you both for today as well as it will travel with you. So as you continue to grow, maybe add some additional systems or customizations to your business to assist with workflow, we're going to be right there with you. We're going to be able to absorb those changes and make sure that the transition is seamless. Jet Reports is how kind of the company got started. It is an Excel-based reporting tool, and I mean, the reason we're in Excel is most accounting and finance teams have experience with this. And so when we're keeping you in that familiar environment, nothing about Excel changes. What we do is we just make it much, much easier for you to get your information out of Dynamics Nav into a refreshable format so that from that point forward, you have a report that you can run and keep and use indefinitely. We do provide 50 pre-built Jet reports day one. So if you choose to invest in the solution, you're not starting from scratch. Obviously, the Optimus team and Jet will be behind you to help with custom reports, but you do get a wealth of content day one. And so the idea of kind of starting from scratch or having to manual copy and paste and kind of use this and create it every month or every year, that's a thing of the past. And that's what we're going to be going through today, is showing really how CFOs make that process simple with Jet. The other solution we'll be going through today is called Jet Budgets. This is a tool that was built specifically by our end users. So that 14,000 plus companies that have been using Jet over the years, we're asking for some additional budget capability out of Dynamics Nav. Specifically, one thing that they requested is they were limited to only being able to budget by 4 dimensions. And so we've opened our tool up to allow for as many dimensions as you want to be included in the budgeting process. And we'll go through that today as well. But again, the idea is the most consistent feedback we got and received from our beta program is that people no longer feared reforecasting. So if you're wanting to reforecast for the half year or every quarter, or take what you've done for the year and roll it into the next one, those are the things that we're going to be showing today on how to make that process simple. Okay? The Jet Hub is really what brings everything together. So it's an online collaboration and published portal. So what that allows you to do is now update your reports, load them into the web, and allow for everybody to access that information whenever they want. And so it does allow for a lot of the subledger reporting vital for pre-close to be evaluated either by financial analysts or by managers of certain regions. And so that's really what the web portal is designed to do. It's also where Jet Budgets lives. And so Jet Budgets is going to be part of our demonstration today. And so we will be spending quite a bit of time in the Jet Hub. So just as long as this makes sense, it will explain itself as we get into the demonstration. At the very tail end of our demo, we're going to be discussing the merits of Jet Analytics. And just so you understand, when I talked about scalability, a lot of our companies start with Jet Analytics, which what it's designed to do is actually take multiple data sources and create a unified version of truth, where you can build in key performance indicators. You can easily slice and dice data without being a technical expert or understanding the underlying data structure. And so when we get into this, I'll make it clear that we're moving to show examples of this. But this is where you can start creating dashboards in Power BI very easily. We have our own dashboard builder, but this is designed to be a corporately unified reporting solution. So that's really what Jet Analytics is, and we'll get into that at the tail end. So to get started, I'm actually going to show one of our pre-built reports here. And the reason I want to show this report is it does a really good job of highlighting how we take advantage of Microsoft Excel, okay? And so what we've done in this particular report, let me actually connect to Nav. What we've done in this particular report is we've taken each of our accounts, or groups of accounts for that matter, and we've placed them in rows, okay? And after that, we took each company and we broke it into a column and then used Excel to consolidate this information. Now, for a lot of companies, this is really all that they need. You could stop here, and maybe this is a report that helps you manage your business. What we did is we took it a step further, and we used something called a sheet replicator, and we broke each company out on its own sheet while taking one of our global dimensions and breaking that out into columns as well. And so if we were looking at a P&L at a high level, we can actually break this information out even further while keeping our accounts consistent. So it's easy for the user to read, as they're going through this information. Now, the two ways that a viewer or a designer of this report could refresh the information, one is just by simply clicking the run button. And when we do that, what we're presented with are options to change. And so in this particular option window, I could change what date range I'm looking at, what business group filter I'm using, company filter, as well as what currencies that I'd actually like to view the information in. And so this can be very, very valuable as you're heading into month end. So if you're wanting to run this report, you could run it live right off the data now. The other option is typically during a month-end closing or getting close to that, you're kind of busy, right? You're wearing multiple hats, you're doing multiple activities. And so when we run this report, what we do is we wind up sitting here in Excel and watching that report refresh. The advantage of Jet is you can actually run this report in the background. And so what that means for you is you can select those same options that you were given earlier, but instead of sitting here and waiting for this report to run, it will actually minimize this report, and then a window will pop up here in the right-hand corner when the report is ready to be viewed. So if I was needing to maybe access the web or access my email while this report is running, I could absolutely do that. And then conversely, once it's done, if I have a question about, what actually makes up this number, I can actually drill right into the transactions themselves and view this information here in either a grid view, or we can open up Dynamics Nav and get right to the transactional level. So this view is typically what we see used for viewers. So viewers who maybe don't have a Dynamics Nav license, if you notice, we're not inside of your application. We're not inside of your ERP. So they can still view this information and ask questions to you about specific pieces of this. They can even organize this information in any way they want. So if they wanted to pull business group to the top and customer group as well, now you have this hierarchy that we've created where they could even export this back to Excel for additional analysis. So it's a very simple way to provide your end users with access to transactional information without creating a separate report as you're getting into the end of the month. Okay, so the next report I'm going to show is one that's not quite done yet. So for those of you on the call who have not seen Jet in action, I did want you to see how simple it is to actually create something like this when you have a template. So this is a template that's provided as part of our pre-built reports, and basically what we do is we leverage a function called the GL function to create a report. So if I was wanting to update these accounts or what companies, it's very simple for me to change the template, because what I do is I really just point to information. So what I'd like to see is the balance for what account. We're going to go ahead and lock in our column here. And then we're just going to grab simply our starting and ending date. And then what company that I would like to see. And so in this case, there's a very nice feature here in the GL function where you can exclude entries that haven't been closed, or you can say, I want to see everything. So you could actually have two separate columns next to each other for the same exact company, one that includes all of the accounts that have been closed and one that includes everything. So this is a really great way to simplify understanding what's been closed versus what actually has not been closed. But at that point, all that I do is I hit OK. I drag this over. And now it's actually looking at our different company. Let's make sure that's doing that right. It's supposed to pull back numbers here. Looks like I need to fix this to look at I want it to lock in the row here. There we go. And then we're going to use Excel to consolidate this information. And now I can just basically drag this information down the worksheet. And then we'll copy this, paste it. And as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. I'm actually going to expand this a little bit. And so modifying these existing templates is quite simple. I could change any of the accounts, I could change the name of the company, or I could change this even to what budget we're looking at. So in our case, now that this report is done, again, I could run it and it returns that information. And so at this point, it's really about sharing. So maybe I want to automate this report to be ran every single month or even every week for that matter. The most effective way to do this is using the Jet scheduler right here within Excel. And so when I click this button, you can see you can actually have tasks stored sitting here waiting to be ran. And so I'm actually going to show you how to set up a new one. So in this particular case, I have a single report, right? What I could have done is I could have taken my cash flow, my income statement, and my balance sheet, placed it all in one folder, and then actually asked Jet to run all of the reports from a folder, or conversely, just a single report. And then you could name this whatever you'd like, so you can call this month-end reports. Next is letting Jet know how often you want this information to be ran. And so what it's going to do is give you some options around that. And so you can choose once, daily, weekly, monthly. So if I select monthly, this is where I could actually say, how many months do I want this to run for? What months would I like this package to be executed? And conversely, do I want it to be ran as preliminaries? So maybe the week before I close, as well as the very first day of the month. So you can have two different tasks, one for preliminaries, one for finals. You can even include what days of the month that it's ran for, right here, as well as what days of the week. So maybe the fourth week, the last week. So we make it very, very simple for a user to come in here and create this executable package. Next is choosing how you want the information distributed. So if you want to send this via email, you can do that. We'll actually read in your Active Directory. And so any of your users that are either on Office 365 or in your Active Directory, you could actually pull in right here and it will save this for you and then allow you to attach the report via email. Now, some users, you may not want to provide an actual Jet report to. Maybe they don't have the Jet ribbon. Maybe they're just wanting a static report. And so the advantage here is you can actually choose what way you'd like to share this report. You could do a values-only workbook, a web page, or even a PDF. And so at this point, you can either say run now, or you could click schedule, and it actually is sitting here waiting to be ran every month. So for those of you who are not 100% certain, maybe which days of the month or when you're going to be ready to run these preliminaries or these finals, you could simply just save this as a task that you can come in and run now whenever you're ready. So that's a huge, huge advantage to month-end closing, is being able to leverage something right here within Excel just to make life easier on everybody. We are not limited to just financial information. So for those of you who either have sales team or maybe you have a accounts receivable and payables type team, we have reports for every type of module that's available within NAV. So no matter what you're using, we're going to be able to access that data, and all of the same options live here. So in this particular case, if I want to run this report and I want it to be for top 10 customers instead of top 5, you can see it quickly returns the information, keeps all of my key performance indicators intact, and updates the chart as well. So in this particular case, if I was wanting to automate a report such as this, it would just be the same exact kind of option, but conversely, I'd be able to come in here and actually choose what are the options that we're actually running on this particular report. So just know that there are a lot of ways to take one report, run it specifically for maybe just one salesperson or multiple salespeople, depending on who manages them, and only send the report to those individuals. So now instead of you, as you're coming into the end of the month, running this report manually and sending it to them, you could either automate this report here in the scheduler or upload this into the Jet Hub. Okay? So in short, that's really, if you're wanting to stay right within Excel, that's one of the most effective ways to manage the month-end process or year-end process. With reporting, that is. We haven't got into budgets yet, which we'll get into next. But if I upload this report into the hub, a user will log in with their credentials and their password, and then they're always going to have access to this report. So I'll go to our report section, and then you can see they could actually organize this section of folders however they want, and then actually select the report, run it, and then they'll have the same report options that they had within Excel available right here. If they open this report, they can view it in the online version of Excel. And then as a admin user, you can actually choose who has access to this report under the sharing tab. So you could select users or groups of users or share with everybody. And so it really allows you to give them that immediate access to information. And then as you're going into the end of the month, what you could have is you could have your previous month and then your current month. So instead of giving them the option on what date range to select, you could actually keep that hidden from the user, give them a fixed report for the end of the month, the quarter, or the year, and then just choose what version of the report that they're actually seeing. So if the web-based route is the way you're wanting to go, it's very simple for you to choose which version that the users are getting access to. We also have the scheduler here in the web. And so if you're wanting to, like as you're closing the month, if you have some maybe reports that are going to the banks or reconciliation reports, you can even get down to running a report every few minutes. So now you're always constantly updating that report. You can choose how many minutes that is in between each run. And this is actually its own database, the Jet Hub. So instead of you wondering whether or not a report has been ran, you can now just go into your report section and simply open them instead of running them first. So that can save a lot of time for those end users. Okay? And then when you hit save, you would just enter your password because not everybody is allowed to do that. Only certain individuals who have the credentials can automate those reports. Conversely, also, if you're ever audited at the end of the year, you do have access to reports that have been ran over the year. It will store an individual copy of each of these and allow you to come back and open them whenever you'd like. So you could actually provide an auditor with credentials to your Jet Hub and allow them to go in and actually look at these reports instead of you sending them individually or granting that specific report, giving them access. Okay, so can really dramatically simplify that process. Okay, so that's really, in a nutshell, the ways that you can simplify both month-end, year-end, and your closing processes with Jet reports. Okay, what we're going to move into next is Jet budgets. And again, just like our reporting tool, we do have quite a few what I would call pre-built reports and things that really make life easier. So if I was wanting to see a report that's actually showing me specific periods and it's showing me the variance between my budgets and my actuals, in this report, we could actually choose what our date filter is, and what our period type is. But it's returning all of this information for me based on what I select here. So I said all the way through the end of June. And so what we did is we got all the way to June 1st. Okay? And so a user can actually run this report and change what accounts they're looking at, what the budget name is, as well as the date range. Okay, so very flexible way to do that once the budget is done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a real world example that we built for a client. And so the 3 different ways that you can create a budget within Jet, one is actually using a template that's within Excel. So if you have done work already over the years and you've just been using Excel to create your budget, we can actually upload that budget, take advantage, that template that is, take advantage of the work you've already done, and just use Jet Budgets to simplify who has access to this template. And then instead of you manually sending the budget form and actually managing this process on your own, the Jet Budgets tool will store copies of this and make sure that it's all stored within the Jet product. And so what we see here is a full year projection. And so this is something maybe you would do, start working on at the end of August, and by the time you're done, it's ready for a January rollout. And so what you'll see here is the template that we created for this customer. And so what it is including is all of their account numbers, as well as maybe what the budget was for the previous year, their total forecast. So people have just entered numbers into these cells and it's totaling up for them. And then also we're pulling actuals from Dynamics Nav. So it's a combination of what happened last year, what's happening now, and what do you expect to happen in the future, all within one template, okay? And so the advantage of this is we're actually taking our totals here, and we've cell referenced it back to a template that loads into Jet Budgets. And so instead of you having to manually key these numbers over into another template, you actually have access to just use a simple cell referencing technique, and everything moves over. So as users update this information, that will roll back into your actual budget, okay? And so this is an example of a reforecast, though. If you notice, we're only reforecasting for July through December. And so for the user who's decided to use the template, you can actually copy this into the next year. The other option is, instead of actually having the budget itself within Excel, what we can do is take these accounts and break them out into the budgets product. So we have our expenses, delivery, shipping, everything's listed out here. And so to create those is quite easy. We just basically add a new section, or in this case, if we wanted to fill out the information, we would say new work item, okay? And so just so you can see, let's see if we have other users. We do. Just so you can see what this looks like is if I want to assign this to another user, and we'll call this travel expenses. Over on the left, we see our account numbers, okay? And so as you scroll through, you'll notice you could select any of these accounts. So if I just want travel, I can do that. Over here, you see every dimension that's in Dynamics Nav is available. And so if it's travel for only one particular department, let's just say sales is that department, but each individual salesperson has their own budget expense, you can go ahead and do that. You'll assign it. It's creating your template for you. And then when you hit next, you choose who's involved. So we have our approver, our contributor, and you can say travel should be under $50,000 this year, or $500,000 in this case. You can set a deadline with a day and a time, as well as sending a unique message. So you can please don't wait until end of the month. You can also add supporting files. So if you wanted to add reports or dashboards or whatever, even just a receipt, maybe it's just a receipt from last year's sponsorship or for this example, you can add any file that you want and have it attached to this particular work item. And then when I send this off, this user actually receives an email with a link that they log into the web portal, and they're only going to see this section. They don't see everything. So they can either enter that information into Excel Online, or they can choose to use a template like we had shown earlier and just enter that information in Excel and upload it. Okay? And so this is another way to break out that information. The other option is if you're wanting to group everything together, you could absolutely do that. So if we go back to our work section here, you can see this particular one is including all of our sales accounts. Okay? So at this point, we have kind of some of our budget flushed out. One thing I did want to show is when we're working on a particular item, over here in the side panel, you can actually share comments that are stored here for future use, as well as all of the supporting documents are kept here. So as this user says, well, these are my expected travel expenses, you could actually send this back to them with notes and additional attachments and more comments to say, well, my expectations are different. So it's a collaborative process where you're going back and forth, and everything's automated via email. So as you get towards the end of your budget cycle, you can actually start entering in reminders for those users to fill out their budgets. And you could say, you know, every day after, I want you to send a repeating email to get this done. So now, as the CFO or controller, everything's managed for you. You don't have to send individual emails. You don't have to track people down. And you don't have to guess as to what's been changed because everything's being stored here within the JET budget system. Okay? So let's say you've done your budget for the year. Everything looks great. And as you're going into the next quarter, you're noticing some discrepancies. So as you're looking at this report, you're seeing that your variance is quite high, right? We'll just say, we'll use our imagination here that the variance is a lot higher than we're showing here. Maybe it's 30% off, right? And so what we want to do is be able to simply reforecast for the rest of the year based on new information. So you've been given new information in the first quarter. You want to update your budget for the next year. And instead of now dreading that process, what you can do is actually come into the budget section, take your existing budget. You can even refresh your nav dimensions. So for example, if you've added new accounts or new dimensions and you want to include those in your new budget, you just simply click refresh. But once you're done, you can copy this budget and say, you know, we're going to say reforecast 2019. And we're going to say we want May to August to be its own section, or you could reforecast for the rest of the year. But you can choose what comes with you. So instead of starting over, having to create your templates and your existing work assignments all from scratch, you can click Create, and it's all done for you. All of the same work items are here. All of the same users are included. And so you can see it's very simple for you as a user to actually reforecast for the rest of the year instead of starting from scratch. It does look like we may have a question. I'm not sure. I see a hand raised. I don't see a question. Let's see. Yeah, if you could enter the question in the Q&A section, I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll be able to answer that. But yeah, so that's really what we're doing at the end of the year to simplify the ability to reforecast. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to transition to Jet Analytics just to show how simple it is to get ad hoc access to multiple data sources. But I did want to, again, kind of pause. I did see a hand up, but I don't see a particular question in chat just yet. But if anyone has questions, feel free to type those into the Q&A section. Should be at the top of your panel in Zoom. It's a Q&A section, but as we go through this, definitely feel free to ask those questions, okay? All right, so when we move from traditional reporting, what we are moving into is more of an analytics world where we're going to be given access to dashboarding very simply, ad hoc analysis, as well as dashboarding within Power BI, which could be very useful for users who are wanting to see high-level information from multiple data sources all at the same time. And so this is a good example of a finance dashboard that a user could access on any device that connects to the internet. And so these are updating for you. You don't have to actually refresh or update these dashboards. They do update for you, but you can easily slice and dice information and even share these with individuals who are working on specific items at the end of the year. So now instead of budgeting based on a specific report, you can see a trend. You can see, well, every Q4, we're in the negative. And so when I go to budget for the year, I can say, well, Q1 has consistently been higher throughout the year. So Q1, Q2, Q3, those are kind of our bigger months. And look here, there's an outlier here in Q4. And so we want to dig into that information. And so it allows us to effectively say, you know, what were we doing in these prior years that we did differently this year? And so it's a really great way to view that information quickly. You can create similar dashboards within Excel. That was our dashboard builder online. But basically you can, you know, slice and dice this information, connect to your cube instead of direct to your database. So if I'm wanting to view just certain salespeople, again, the idea is I can quickly analyze large sets of information instantaneously. We see 4 years of history was sliced according to just what I'm choosing in these panels. Okay, and there's another example of a trend you might want to dive into further. Okay. Conversely, we can actually deploy our cube into Power BI, where now you can create dashboards and stunning visuals within Power BI if you already have access to it without any additional training, because our cube right here to create these is available to you. So most people, you start from scratch when you open Power BI. When you have Jet Analytics, that's not the case. You actually have a data set where we built this visual by clicking 2 boxes, our ending balance by global dimension. Okay. And so that's really kind of what I wanted you to see is it's really up to you on where you return the information. These are the pre-built cubes that you'll receive with Jet. You have a finance cube, inventory, manufacturing, payables, purchase, receivable, and sales. And the cube itself can be customized any way that you want. So profit percent and profit are good examples of key performance indicators that may be calculated differently depending on what region you're in, what currencies you're wanting to view the information in. And so we can customize any of this cube to be specific to your organization. Okay. And then again, for someone wanting access to information, you just click your boxes. So I want all of my sales and costs. I want to see actually all of my items, and I want to see that over the entire history of the company. We click 6 boxes, you have a fully functional ad hoc report that's combining multiple data sources that allows you to get immediately to transactional information. So in this case, it can be a very effective tool for data exploration versus maybe you'll never build a report off this. Maybe this won't ever become a dashboard, but you immediately were given your data without having to create really a robust report. You just click some boxes, and maybe in this particular case, you want to add some of those slicers we had seen earlier. And so it's really an effective way to immediately get access to that information. Conversely, maybe you want to see this over time in a different way. Maybe we want to compare to last year. Okay. So again, it's immediate access, no technical expertise required, and it's compatible with both Excel and Power BI just as easily. So kind of as a recap, what we've done is we've covered JET reports, JET budgets, and how to simplify both month and year-end processes, as well as JET analytics, how to really gain access to ad hoc reporting without needing really a technical background. So JET reports, JET budgets, we were in the JET hub for quite some time. And then JET analytics is really taking all of your raw data, it's organizing it to minimize risk and deploying it both in the data warehouse and cubes to be used in conjunction with Excel, Power BI, or our versions of dashboard building online. But again, this is rapid time to value. It's pre-built for Dynamics Nav. It installs within 2 hours, and it is by far the leading provider for analytics for the Dynamics Nav community because of how fast, simple, and easy it is to deploy, as well as how easy it is to customize. Okay? And at the beginning of the presentation, Vishal mentioned some promotions that are being ran at the end of the year. They are quite significant for JET, so definitely reach out if you're interested in seeing more, maybe a more specific and tailored demo. We're happy to do that. But as we're coming up kind of already in the middle of June, now is definitely the time to reach out. It is a significant discount, so just let Optimus know if you would like more information. But definitely thank you so much for being here. Hopefully today was valuable for either existing JET users or prospective JET folks who you know want to find a way to make this easier. But again, thank you for being here. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging out for the next few minutes. And more than happy to answer those questions. But thank you, and thank you, Optimus. Hope everyone has a great day.